other people besides
Yeah.
us are
Yeah.
trying to figure out how do you quote unquote do it all.
Mm.
Hello, you're listening to the Parenting Alchemy podcast, where we help parents just like you to raise good human beings in confidence and ease using connection-based parenting and self-healing techniques. How do we
Managing.
manage the
Okay.
things that we need to get done with our
Mm.
kids,
Mm-hmm.
school? So obviously, other people besides
Yeah.
us are
Yeah.
trying to figure out how do you quote unquote do it all.
Mm-hmm. Mm. How you do it all? Why? For me personally, I when I look at my life and the way it's organized, because I'm definitely not the most organized person. As a matter of fact, I'm still barely working on it, but I understand it to be a priority. So that way my life can flow very effortlessly, right? And that's the whole intention, is for it to flow.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I look at each part or aspect of my life is my relationship to them. Every single thing that I do, it's a relationship. Every
Mm-hmm.
as we've spoken about so many times before. And when I look at this relationship, I always question myself, what is this relationship founded on? Is it founded on fear, or is it founded on love? And if I notice a little fear coming into play, then I'm going to take a look at it and see what is it that I can do to make it go into love. Because I understand that if my interest is from love, then it becomes effortless.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can look at my relationship with my kids and the job and love them both equally, then at least that's a starting point for me. So I can see it differently. So I can see my relationship with my son, instead of it being a chore to change his diapers, to get him to school, I can actually enjoy walking him to school. I can enjoy, smelling on his armpits as I change his diaper.
Mm.
I can enjoy those small little moments so that I can think of it not as a parenting duty, rather something that I love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to translate into them loving me. And, it just keeps going down. So the way I approach, my projects, my tasks, if I'm doing something that doesn't feel good to me, then I understand that I need to pivot to something else that feels good to me. So if I'm doing work right now that just doesn't feel right at all, and it's clashing with my relationship with my kids, then I know that needs adjusting. So it's just a little awareness, I would say, just for that to start in the manner that you wish for it to start, with the intention to get a hold of it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I had a similar thought process to that because, for me personally, I have my work, which I get to do from home, is a really big
mm,
plus.
yeah,
The downside of that is the separation of work and home life, when the
right.
kids are here, because it's also my office space. The same dining table that we gather as a family is also my office when I'm working. And I some days I get out early. There's early out, which I'm like, who created early out? Like my day doesn't end at 1 p.m. But they
Exactly.
have they have early out, and so especially on the days that were early out, I was trying to still work, or sometimes when I would pick them up and we get home and then we have snacks and then they get settled and then they transition and then I would try to work.
Mm,
And I realized that it wasn't helping my relationship with them, because if I was trying to focus on a project or I was trying to focus on something that I wanted to finish, and then I got interrupted, which is gonna happen with
right.
kids because they don't care that you have a deadline. You're right
Yeah.
there. So I'm
Right.
talking
Right.
to you
Right.
because you're right here.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
and they don't know one moment while I finish,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I would have a hard time getting back in focus to the project.
Mm,
Definitely was not being present
Mm-hmm.
to whatever it is that they were saying. I was in my mind, I'm just
Right.
thinking, what is it? Because I got to get back to the work.
Mm.
And I had to submit to the fact that I just can't do anything that requires focus while I have them. Like if they're
Yes.
here after school, if I'm going to get on the computer to work on something, it better be something that is not mindless, because the work I'm doing is not
Mm-hmm.
mindless,
Mm-hmm.
but that is a project that if I have to stop it mid project is okay. So almost like the
Mm.
creative work, I can actually do that with
Yeah. Nice.
more than technical or like
Yeah.
our logistic type work. But
Mm-hmm.
creative work, I'm like, okay, anything that falls on the creative work, I can actually do that because I can just stop it and just say, whoop,
Mm-hmm.
we're done, and then be
Mm.
present. And that was hard because I still had the projects to finish,
Mm.
but it made that relationship and engagement with them easier. And the truth is, they're gone at school.
Mm.
We get up at 6:30. We drive out to school at 7:30. They're gone from 8 o'clock to, except for early days, for 8 o'clock to like 3, and we get home with all the pickups at like 4. Like they
Yeah.
deserve to have me at that point,
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to reorganize the structure of my day and
Mm.
become more effective when I'm with them,
Nice.
because what you were saying,
Yeah.
the relationship matters. It wasn't benefiting my work anyway. It was my work was being interrupted and the relationship with them was being interrupted.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I think, part of organizing is just realizing what's not working.
Yeah, really. Yeah, what's not working. And even when I'm just listening to you speak about it, and every time something were to happen that was not desirable to you, my question is like, what are your initial reaction thoughts to that? Like if you were to ask yourself, like if this presents to me in a way that I don't like it, what's your initial go-to thought? I'm curious.
You mean like if
Like if it's
it
not going the way you want it to, like what is your initial reaction in relation to your kids and with work and
this is such a good question. Because like I was saying earlier, I was having a similar discussion with one of the moms from the parenting alchemy membership. And we were talking about how you get all these great tips, like
yeah,
always say yes whenever you can, be in a calm and positive mindset. And
right.
when they're needing your attention, be present, and like all these things that
Yes.
seem, yeah, okay, great.
Makes
And then
sense.
on the moment when you have so many things piled on top of you,
Yes.
and then because you're operating from already maximized capacity,
Mm-hmm.
none of that works at the moment. It's like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
great when you are operating from an overflow, which is the ideal case. But when you're
Mm-hmm.
already getting to that tip of your capacity and
Mm-hmm.
know the right things to do, but then they're not actually going to work. So what's a realistic thing that
Yes.
you can do? And
Mm-hmm.
so I was saying, for me is I do somatic tricks to kind of trick my brain to not go towards the triggering moment.
Mm-hmm.
And
Nice.
that might mean, for example, pinching myself when I'm feeling like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
all your positive thoughts are not working right now. You're getting towards that triggering moment. It's not
Right.
working. And I will zap, like actually
Right.
pinch my skin,
Mm.
and to kind of tell my brain, focus on that instead. And it kind of diffuses the trigger that was about to erupt.
Mm.
It's kind of like in birth, there's this thing called the 10th unit. I mean, it's not just in birth, actually. The 10th unit is used for sciatica and
Right. Right.
backaches and all this stuff.
Right.
And
Right.
what it does is it gives you an electric shot when you're in pain.
Mm.
And the electric shot tricks your brain to focus on that little shock that
Yeah.
you're getting, and not on the intensity of the other pain that you have. So
Mm.
it's a similar concept when I do the somatic trick.
Mm.
And then I think what's important is I cannot beat myself up over the fact that
Right.
my mindful techniques didn't work at that moment.
Yeah.
Instead, I have to strategize
Mm.
and say, what led to that moment? Like what, especially if there's a pattern, like
Right.
what led to that moment? And what
Hmm.
could I change now going forward
Right.
to not find myself in the same position?
Hmm.
And then I come up with an action plan without beating myself up, because that does nothing good for me at all.
Right.
So it's just all right, what am I going to do next? And then I can implement that. And if it doesn't work, my new strategy, then all right, strategize again. That wasn't quite it. What else could it be that I need to reorganize in our lives so that I don't get to that moment? And that's actually the same thing that happened when I was finding myself getting frustrated when I had the kids with me and I was trying to work at the same time. It took a few of days for me to realize you need to strategize again. You need to reorganize what's
Mm.
happening, analyze the situation, come up with a new plan.
Nice.
So
That's
that's what I do. Because all the nice things are nice and they work really good
hmm.
until the moment that you start to get triggered.
Oh
And
boy.
then then they go out the window. So then you need to work with the mind at that point, like the brain, the actual functioning of the brain at that point. You need to work with that.
Mm.
What do you do?
Yeah, first I love the tips because yes, like and asking yourself those questions as you lead up to that triggering point is so helpful, because you can approach it in so many different ways, so many things that you can do prior to that, and just again another level of awareness. For me personally, what I've been experiencing, at least, in these past couple months, I would say, is yeah, first just being aware of times that when it does happen. So I review myself or evaluate myself, let's say a couple weeks back, and I look at myself in the moments when I get upset or angry. Who was I before I got upset and angry?
Mm-hmm.
Was I already upset and angry? And did that transfer over to me being even more upset and angry? That's one recognition. So once I see that play out, um, my my go-to actually now is pause. And again, just going back to silence, just that's my go-to. And I notice it working really well with my 7-year old.
Mm.
My 7-year old, his mind is just about everywhere. And as me trying to be on the single lane, I lose track of what his thoughts are.
Mm-hmm.
And when he is giving me a hard time in my eyes, not necessarily in his eyes, but in my eyes, if he's giving me a hard time, it takes a lot for me to hold back and not say what it is that I want to say right off the bat, because that's not always good. That's always based off my
Mm-hmm.
reaction and the anger state that I already am in. So what helps when I pause, I can observe again those thoughts trickling down, saying, you're a bad dad, or whatever you're about to say is not going to be good. I allow those thoughts to come in. And then I look at my son for, I attempt to look beyond the body, and I look at his soul again. So it's just soul. And I look at him for who he really is. And he's just this joyful, playful kid,
Mm-hmm.
in his own childlike state. And here I am as a serious person infringing upon this childlike state. And how do I get to that childlike state? And the pause really allows me to do that for me. And even if things are going wild in the background, I have a 2-year-old and wife's talking, and the 7-year-old is right here, I can still pause within that moment and within my own mind and approach it very calmly. And when I notice my voice speaking the way it is right now, then I know I'm on track because I'm
Mm-hmm.
calm. And then that situation actually turns out to be really good. And he comes back to me with even a better solution that I would have ever thought, because he listens to me as well. He actually listens, even though if I think he doesn't listen,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm blinded by that truth in a way. So yeah, the pause really allows me just to come back, just keep coming back again, reeling me back from those emotions. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, now if I can organize that and get myself to ask a little different questions so that I can strategize, like you mentioned, I think that could really help round it off so I don't get into those situations from the get-go.
I think that's one of the key things. And
Mm.
again, because I know you and I, we're not alone in this. Anybody that's listening and is a parent and works, and even if they're a stay-at-home parent, they're working, they're doing a full-time job 24/7.
Yeah.
Like just that whole, how do I do the things I need to do? Yeah, I can do them when they're easy. I can be the parent that I want to be when it's easy to do it. What about when it gets a little bit challenging? What
Yeah.
about
That's
when
the
I'm
part.
getting maxed out and I didn't get to take enough breaks during the daytime, or I've just been doing too much? And for
Mm.
you, it's the pause. Is
Yeah.
I need pause and be and then be present.
Yeah.
And for me, is the somatic work, and then be
Hmm.
present, and then
Hmm.
and then the following of that is the who, like you were saying, who was I before that moment? What, before I started to get that maxed out,
Yeah.
what was happening? Who was I? And then the
Yeah.
way that I think of that is, what do I need to do to not find myself in that position again?
Right.
Because it's
Right.
is the great thing about conscious parenting is not, as we're both talking, we're not pointing at our kids. We're not
Mm-hmm.
saying,
Never.
if okay, so how do we get our kids to
Right.
not interrupt us, and let
Right.
us do what we need to do, you
Mm-hmm.
know
Mm-hmm. That's
like,
very easy. That's so easy, you know?
it's
Yeah.
like we need to look at us, because their needs are basic. They're not asking
Mm.
us for that much. As I got home
No.
from school, I want your attention.
Yeah.
I have something cool to tell you, cool to
Yeah.
them. It's like, I have something really cool to tell you.
To,
I
yes.
want you to care,
Mm.
about what we're saying. The kids are fine. The kids are doing what kids do. Is
Right.
how do we, as busy modern day parents,
Yeah.
um do our sacred work in parenting in a
Mm.
mindful way? And there are ways to do that, like
Yeah.
we just talked about what our tips are, that we do.
Mm.
And then it helps if, for those, who have another partner in their house, like yourself, to
Yeah.
kind of strategize with them too.
Mm.
And be like, what, I'm finding myself in this position and I'm having a hard time with that. And how can we structure our family so that we're setting ourselves up for success, so
Mm.
that we can be the parents that our kids want us to be, the way that we want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And, just the way, you know, I want to see them is something that I question myself. It's like, how do I see this person in front of me? Because a lot of times I would get kind of like narrow in my thoughts. I get blinded with what people are telling me, and I'm just really not aware, other than of me being aware of myself. It's like, one thing that I was kind of running into actually is a quote from Bruce Lee. That
Mm,
famous water quote is, to empty your mind, be formless, shapeless, like water. When you imagine water to be very fluid, adaptable to change, gentle, powerful at the same time, that's what I feel like that, I could fully embody, that could really help me manage, things that I need to manage on a daily basis, because I don't really know what's going to be coming to me.
hmm
So if I'm being like water, and just adapting, he mentions putting water into a cup becomes a cup, water into a teapot, it becomes a teapot. And if I could use that in a way that I can take on the lens of each person that I'm trying to understand, so I can essentially flow and become a part of them in a sense, then I can fully understand what this person is saying, or what is it that he's trying to do. So I could at least have that understanding so that next time, if I were to come to the situation where I'm just unsure, if I can just, like you said, just not beat myself up at the same time too,
Hmm.
rather just slide into it and without judgment. And what will be the outcome if you didn't judge it? You never know.
Hmm.
It could be the greatest thing that ever happened in your life because you
Hmm.
did not judge that event for what you thought it was when you're placing your thoughts on it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there's just so many layers of thoughts that could be placed upon it, but when you clear it off and you become like water, you never know what it's going to become.
I want to really focus on that point of not judging the situation.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's so many parents and will beat themselves up, will
Yeah.
have so much guilt about
Mm.
guilt, frustration, I'm not being who I want to be, like,
Right.
and
Expectations. Yeah.
so much of that. And the truth is none of that's helping you actually be
Really.
who you want to be, like, in any
Yeah.
way whatsoever. So you get choices. Like, you
Yes.
get choices of what you're going to do with a situation. You get to decide, you get to be in the driver's seat.
Yes.
So if I didn't parent the way I want it to be, I'm now at the lane. I get the choice. I can drive to the right and
Mm-hmm.
strategize and see, look
Mm-hmm.
at the situation from an overview and
Yes.
strategize. I can, turn right. Or I get the choice. I can turn left and go down the lane of guilt and judging
Right.
myself and create a narrative of how I'm not the parent that I want to be. I'm
Yeah.
not being a good mom. I'm not enough.
Yeah.
And I can drive down that lane.
Oh yeah.
Um, Depending on your conditioning, depending on the cycles that you learn, depending on the
Right.
patterns that were repeated for you, it's an automatic left. It's like, well, this is
Right.
what we do. You're not
Reaction.
even like thinking about, oh, wait a minute, I have another choice. I can actually choose to not go
Mhm.
down that lane, go the other way.
Mhm.
But through mindful work and conscious living, you
Mm.
start to realize I don't need to follow those patterns. I don't
Mhm.
need to go along with those narratives. They're not
Mhm.
doing a thing for me in any way
Mhm.
whatsoever. They're not even helping me. And then I have to climb my way out of that, because now I dug myself. I went down a path. Now I have to actually turn around, drive all the way back to go towards the other side.
Mm.
So it takes you longer to get to where you want to be,
Yeah.
when you make that choice of beating yourself up. And it's easier
Yeah.
said than done. But believe me, if I can do it,
Yeah.
based with my experience and the way I was raised and the trauma I experienced,
Yeah. Yeah.
anyone can do it. Like, you
Yeah.
can make that really mindful effort of just blocking away that side and say, I'm just, it doesn't serve me. I'm
Mm.
not going there.
Mm. Beautiful. And I want to add on to that just more recently. Just my relationship with my wife. We have certain roles in the house, and sometimes when she runs errands, she's been telling me more lately that she notices that she's rushing herself to get things done, and those are expectations that she placed upon herself.
Mm,
When those expectations are placed and she doesn't meet those expectations, at the end of the day, then she beats herself up.
mm,
So it's just a running circle, and she's noticing that even more frequently. It's like, Enos,
mm-hmm,
man, I run to the store, I do this, I do that, I come home, I cook, and I put all this pressure, I dealt with traffic and all that, and I just don't feel good at the end of the day. I notice that my mind is racing this whole time, and I'm trying to get this thing completed, but my body's not even there for me to even achieve that expectation. So she's really getting to the point, and I've been walking her along this path. I'm not trying to get myself involved because I understand that's her own journey in a way, right? For her to
mm-hmm,
figure that out for herself, but now she's like, Enos, I'm hitting this point where I'm just getting so frustrated, so caught up, and I'm still accomplishing some things, but it's not to what I understand it to be. Maybe I should slow things down a little bit. what
mm-hmm.
do I think about that? And then I was like, That's a great step. Be kind to yourself, just love yourself and accept the things that you cannot control. And always just learn to pivot from that and just be aware of those expectations that you failed to meet, and give yourself a
Mm-hmm.
pat on the back for the things that you actually did.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
That was a lot of self-awareness.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
a lot.
and
Yeah,
that is how it works is
yeah,
you realize the situation. You realize that a lot of times you've placed yourself in that situation based on expectations
right,
and again, the way that we grew up will have a lot to play into it.
right.
And then the power comes and the magic comes
Yeah.
when you give yourself your own solution. Because
Oof.
before that time, I'm sure that somebody would have said, just lower your expectations. You don't actually have to be that fast at it, and it wouldn't have
Mm.
worked. Like
Mm.
the solutions,
Right.
a lot of times have to come from our own awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. It's like, again, it just comes back to our control that we have over. And when we make that realization that we have the power, like Giselle said, to make the choice, to make the change, to strategize, to do all the things that we got to do, that's the beautiful thing. We have the choice.
Hmm.
And until you're done experiencing whatever it is you're trying to experience, and you make that, again, just the power, the magic that comes with it. You'll still run into challenges, but you'll approach it differently each and every time. And I'm seeing that more and more. If I were to get on a phone call with an angry applicant or angry person, before I even get on the call, I ask myself, it's like, who do I want to be in this conversation?
Mm.
Do I want to be calm? Do I want to be present? Okay, that's the intention. Let's go into it with that idea. And a lot of times the conversations turn out wonderfully. No
Hmm.
bad vibes. They're not screaming at me. I'm just giving them the service, giving them a solution, and they enjoy my company. They actually want to even talk even more. So again, maybe it's just even setting the intention for the day in the morning, without even expectation of it even happening or getting done. It's like, I just wish or intend for just a day full of organization, a day full of loving relationships, just list whatever it is that's on your mind that for that morning,
Hmm.
and expect some good things to come from that if it came from good intentions. Good. Yeah.
I love how you said you decide who do I want to be in this call. You
Yeah.
know,
That was, yeah, I figured it out like maybe a couple months ago. It's
mm-hmm.
like, because it's easy for that's again just reacting to a situation. I could have picked up the phone right when it rang, but I give it two, three, and then I close my eyes and I was like, okay, what's the intention for this phone call?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just so empowering, because in my mind, as we're having the conversation, that's still bubbling up in me. It's like, okay, if I notice any bad vibes coming from me, then I know that I didn't make it to what my intention was, and I can always
Mm-hmm.
adjust from there.
Yeah, I do a slightly different but same idea.
Yeah.
I'll say I'll take a deep breath and then go into my body and say, how do I want to feel right now? Like what
Mm.
kind of space do I want to be in? And because those transitions in everything that we do, we're constantly doing different things and being
Right.
different things for different people. And so for me, even right before we do this podcast, I take a
Yeah.
moment to,
Yeah.
all right, I'm present. How do I want to feel while I'm doing the call? And when I
Mm.
talk to the parents, when they do like their one-on-ones, right
Mm.
before I'll be like doing all my thing, doing all my work. And then I get
Right.
the reminder, the call, and then I pause. It's like,
Nice.
how do I want to feel on this call?
Nice.
So
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
I like I work so much with feelings, but I love
Yeah.
it's the same thing when you
Same
say,
thing.
who do I want to be in this call?
Where I
Same
want to be.
thing.
Yeah, same exact
Hmm.
thing. And how has that worked out for you in those sessions when you run into that, and you do that before each call? Like, is it work out for you, or is there anything else that you could
Yes.
improve? Yeah.
Yes, because the pause and intention of creating the space. So
Right.
when I ask myself, what do I want to feel? I also am creating a new space.
Nice.
A lot of times I'm receiving, I'm receiving
Mm.
what's happening in other people's lives. And
Right.
so I need to be at a grounded space for that, because that's the place where I can then coach from, where I can then share
Right.
from. And that's a different space than I am otherwise, because then before
Mm.
that call, I'm usually giving in terms of creating things, and so when I'm doing a coaching call, though, I'm receiving other people's lives into
Yeah.
my space. So I have to create
Yeah.
that space.
Nice.
And it literally takes a minute. It doesn't even take, maybe even less, really. But that same tip
Yeah.
is the same tip when I close my computer, and I go
Mhm.
pick up the kids.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, now we're moving on to that space, because I need to create that space for them.
Right.
I have 4 different pickups. So it takes
Yeah.
us about an hour from the time I leave to the time we get home. And
Wow.
they have all the
Wow.
things they want to tell me.
Yeah.
Um, and so I have to make that space, to
Mm.
receive. Now I'm receiving, so now I have
Mm.
to like create that space. And
Mm.
honestly, I think, I think as we start to wrap up our chat, really is that in itself, it's like when you said, who do I want to be?
Mm.
And at this moment, who do I want to be at the moment when I'm picking up the phone? And
Mhm.
I think about how do I want to feel,
Mhm.
when I move on to something else.
Mhm.
We I don't know realistically if we can do all the things.
Right.
Part of doing all the things has been not doing the things, right? Like
Right. Right. That's great. I love that.
I
Yeah.
had to limit what all the things were and limit it
Yeah.
so I could actually do it, because,
Yeah.
and then the second part of organizing all that is at the different moments of the different roles that I play. Who
Mhm.
do I want to be in those spaces?
Mhm.
And taking that moment to transition to that space. I
Yeah.
actually think of all the things, that's probably the most powerful technique for preventing some of the triggers, preventing some of the frustration.
Yes. Nice. Yes. I love the preventative stage. Yes. Because transitions become a lot easier as you work through those things. And yeah, I just love setting the intention every time. And because I don't do it for like how you explain, like closing the laptop. I haven't gone that far yet, but it makes even more sense to do it that way, because you're just really just closing the end of a book for you to start another chapter and something else, like you said, sliding
Mm-hmm.
into the different conversations with your kids. And it's like, if I can achieve this universal state of who is it do I want to be? What if I just say that I just want to be good?
Mm.
That's it. Period. Good. Because what comes of goodness? Good.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I could really keep that simple for myself in everything that I approach, whether it's organizing, whether it's work, whether it's relationships, if I can just set the intention, I just want to be good, I'm going to try that out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to close my laptop and say, hi, Enos, I just want to be good. And I don't know what's going to come of it, but I can expect it to be good.
Mm-hmm. Putting that intention
Yeah.
and the mindfulness into what we're doing.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to this episode. I would love to hear your feedback and your thoughts. Reach out anytime you like by visiting theparentingalchemy.com. Be well.